boy. Outside the net, yeah. It's too much too hard at the outside the net. It's too much too hard at the ice out the neck. When I'm in my zone, bitch, I get my respect. Call me bumping Johnson.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Texas Sports World. We are your hosts. I'm Ethan. That is Isaac, and we have some stuff to get into today. Day 2 of mandatory OTAs, and there were some interesting comments made in the press conference afterwards. I don't remember if it was CJ yesterday or CJ today. I think it was yesterday, but I have some interesting stuff to get into with that. Also, I'm probably going to clap back to some OU fans that think that the guy in the orange hat doesn't know anything and that I'm clueless. I have some stuff that may make you think otherwise. But anyways, first things first. How was your day today, dude?
Oh, same old, same old. Getting to it. Been peeping on the Twitter and on the TikTok and everything. Keeping up with Texans mini. You know what? Good day.
Oh yeah, and also we're definitely gonna have to keep talking about. Apparently, I've never heard anybody talk more about Derek Wale than Texans fans this offseason. It's kind of it's insane to me. It's asinine and it doesn't make any sense.
I didn't know Dalre Agumbawale had this many fans. I didn't know he was a fan favorite. Right?
apparently he kicks one field goal, and now all of a sudden
Everybody.
we need to. Now all of a sudden he's our backup kicker.
Yeah,
apparently nobody else signs kickers in the middle of the year. That's like not a thing anybody else does. They'd rather have their running back who doesn't practice kicking at all. It's not his thing. His job is to run the ball. That'd be our third down back, which I don't even know if he's going to be our third down back anymore. With a report today from Aaron Wilson saying that the Texans brought in JaMycal Hasty, who is a third down back, for a workout today. So there's a lot of the interest in the running back group is kind of worrisome to me. You bring in Nick Chubb already. You have Joe Mixon. You still have Dameon Pierce technically. You're bringing in JaMycal Hasty on a workout. There's a lot of I don't know.
I am concerned, or not concerned, but questionable. What is Dameon Pierce's role, in your opinion? What do you think his role would be if he makes the roster this year?
I think honestly, I think Mixon and Chubb are 1A, 1B, because Chubb was getting first team reps today. So I think Mixon and Chubb are kind of 1A, 1B, and then DP is kind of your just your third back. I mean, here's the thing is I agree with people that Dameon Pierce hasn't played up to his potential. I think there's reasons for that, and I think the reasons are valid. So, but I also don't necessarily agree with cutting him loose in general, because if we cut him, he's going to end up on a team like the Titans where we have to play him 2 times a year, and it's going to be a revenge game every single time we play him. And I don't necessarily know if I want to be on the receiving end of that.
Well, it'd be really gross if he went to the Colts.
Oh my God! Don't even say that name.
With a little JTDP action.
JTDP, come on, man! Can't have that. Cannot have that.
Can't let that happen.
So yeah, I think his role is just our third back or our de facto second back. And if this JaMycal Hastings thing comes to fruition, to me that even means more to the end of the Dare Agumbawale discussion. Because if his only purpose is to be our third down back, there's no reason for him to be on the roster if you bring in JaMycal Hasty. There's just not.
For sure.
Especially if at that point you have 4 running backs. Like, if his only role on the team is to be the backup kicker, what are we doing? And if he's if he's versatile, go ahead.
I think anybody who tries to say that it just doesn't. There is no room for Dare in this backfield with Woody Marks, Dameon Pierce, Nick Chubb, and Joe Mixon. There's no room for him here. And everybody will say that we might trade Dameon Pierce for whatever value we can get for him. For one, bad idea. Not just because I don't want to trade Dameon Pierce, but due to the simple fact of there's 2 things. For one, the value that you're going to get, whatever draft compensation you're going to get, because it's not going to be another player. You're going to get picks. Whatever picks those aren't going to be worth Dameon Pierce whenever he goes to that team, because he's going to ball out. And secondly, you didn't give him enough reps last year. Like, you increasingly made him look like a worse and worse running back, that he's not going to be worth anything. You might get a 6th, if you're lucky, a 5th for him.
Maybe. So like, I it doesn't make, like you said, there's not any room for Dare on the roster anymore because there are, if your argument is he's a special teams ace and that he is our backup kicker, then I don't want to talk to you. Like, because our special teams has never. I had somebody on Twitter tell me with a straight face that we wouldn't have made the playoffs without Derek Gumbuale.
Yeah, I saw that. I had to.
What?
No.
I almost had to log off of Twitter for the day. Like,
yeah, I didn't want to entertain that one. Like even a little bit.
Like, you can't. That was the craziest response that I got because I said on Texans Twitter, can somebody please explain to me why? And somebody brought up DP's contract and the fact that it's more expensive to have him on the roster rather than Dare Gumbuale or Dare Gumbuale.
Isn't Dare like almost 97 years old?
I mean, he's 31. And people say he's like our third down receiving back. He averages less than 130 yards receiving a season. That's not a threat out the backfield. It's just not.
And also, it's like he's not that good of a receiving back.
Yeah,
or a pass blocker. Or
I mean, he's a pretty solid pass blocker. He's a solid pass blocker, but I don't. That's if you stack all those things up: special teams ace, backup kicker, good pass blocker, less money on his contract. That's still those things in a row don't make me want to keep him on the roster. It doesn't make sense to me.
Not over a guy like Dameon Pierce. I think CJ Stroud said something interesting today about him being injured. He said, there's just nothing for y'all to talk about, so everything gets blown out of proportion. I think this is one of those things. Like, we're really not sitting here arguing about Dameon Pierce and Dare Gumbuale. We're at that point in the offseason. That's what the topic of conversation is. The truth is, Dare's gone. If anybody's gone, it's going to be Dare. There's just no outside of D'Amico liking him and what he can bring to the table or whatever, there's no reason for him to be here.
Right. And we added people this offseason, free agent wise, that are good special teamers. Yeah. So like, it's not like, does he raise the ceiling of the special teams or raise the floor so much that you keep him on the roster? No. It doesn't make any sense to me. Like I said, if you're keeping your running back on the roster as your backup kicker, that is crazy. And somebody said, oh, so we're just to sign a kicker in mid-game? No, man, but you can't tell me that any other team, we're the only team in the league that our running back is our backup kicker. What are we talking about right now? Like, it's not, you can go out there mid-season and sign a kicker or something. We did that. We've done that before. Teams do that. That's not like a crazy thing.
We did that like a year or two ago, I think.
Yeah, when Kaimi went down.
After that's what's crazy. Everybody says Dare's our backup kicker. Okay, when Kaimi went down, he kicked one field goal or whatever, and then we immediately signed the next game, signed a kicker, so he didn't have to do that anymore.
And that kicker hit a game. So Dare is your backup kicker. Okay, so he can hit it from like what, an extra point or like maybe 20 yards, like a 30-yard field. Like, that's not value there. Like, okay, so what happens if you need a kicker? Your kicker goes down. You get down to like the 35, 40. Are you going to send Dare out there to kick the field goal? You're going to send Dare out there to kick a 45-yard field goal. You're going to look me in the face and tell me that's.
I'm pretty sure they debated it whenever Kaimi went down. I think we were about 30 or 40 yards out, and they were like, well, are they going to send Dare Gumbuale out there to kick a field goal or to try to attempt a field goal? And then we went for it on fourth down because we knew he wasn't hitting that. So, like, he's obviously not that good of a backup kicker.
Right. What's the point of having him on the – especially, like I said, especially if you go out there and sign Jermichael Hasty, who that's his role in the league. He is a third down back. That's what he has done in the league his entire career in the league. So, now granted, I'm not saying he's – I wouldn't even say he's better than Dare, but if your only reason, but now the Jermichael Hasty thing gives me more pause for when it comes to Joe Mixon, because is Joe Mixon's injury? This would be the second running back we add in this offseason. Third actually with drafting Woody Marks.
Well, I think the thing with Joe Mixon and the Nick Chubb signing and all of that. I'm not necessarily super worried. Listen, selfishly, I'm not very worried about Joe Mixon. Um, not because I don't want him to be starting running back or anything like that, but we do have our running back. We have a lot of running backs. Like J.J. Taylor did play pretty good during the preseason last year.
And he's
Um,
still on the roster.
yeah, Nick Chubb is still
British
on the
British
roster.
Brooks British Brooks is
British
still on the
Brooks is still on
roster.
the roster. Woody Marks is now on the roster. Dameon Pierce is still on the roster. Like, I don't anticipating us being such a run heavy team that we can't figure out a way to make those guys work.
Right. And even if we are, and I think, and we're going into a system that DP almost went for 1,000 in already. So like, is it so crazy to think to give him the benefit of the doubt in the sense that the slow situation and the offensive line situation the last 2 years
Kind of
could
hindered
have been the reason?
Yeah.
Could have been the reason?
Yeah. Now, well, I think that what it is he hasn't really gotten a chance to go out there and show anything to Nick Caley because it
No.
was off season. Nick Caley gets signed. They haven't done any practicing. Now he's hurt. And everybody wants to talk about Dameon Pierce being hurt, which is fine. I get it. It's frustrating for me too and everybody else. I get it. He can't stay healthy. But neither can anybody else. Joe Mixon is coming into the season injured. Nick Chubb just came off injury. Like.
So if your argument is injury, then we should just cut all the guys.
Yeah. Anybody who's ever had an injury, just cut them, I guess, because, yes, Dameon Pierce has been injured, but he's never been injured for an extended period of time.
Right, and the only reason he didn't play is because they just wouldn't play him.
Yeah. And the injury excuse is so bogus anyways, because even when he was healthy, they weren't playing him. So it wasn't like availability is the best ability or whatever. Like, he was available and they still didn't play him. So they weren't worried about him getting hurt because he's not your starting running back. You're not going to play him, and he's still not hurt. Well, but now we're going to use injuries as an excuse as to why he's not going to get any playing time. Like, that's so weak. That's so weak.
Yeah, I agree. I think I've never seen a team, a fan base, fight so hard to keep a running back on the roster for being a backup kicker. But now that we have Chubb and Mixon, how many snaps because Dari's probably going to be what, RB4 or 3? How many snaps does he actually get? So is he even going to make a difference? Right, is he even going to make a difference?
The crazy thing is, Dare Ogunbowale's never had a better season than Dameon Pierce, statistically, since they've been on the same team. So it's not like he's
in his career.
Or maybe even in his career, but it's not like he's outperforming Dameon Pierce when it comes to doing his job, running the football. He's not outperforming Dameon Pierce. So, I don't get it. Why would you not want your third running back, even if he doesn't get? Obviously, Dameon Pierce is going to get maybe 40 touches if he's RB3 this year. Why would you not want 7.3 yards per carry on your 40 touches from your running back 3?
Right. Give him 10 carries a game, or not 10 touches. How about that? 10 touches, whether it be receiving or because we haven't even really tapped in to him to Dameon Pierce as a receiving as a back out of the backfield. We have no idea what that even looks like, and I bet you it's better than Dare because Dare still hasn't done it in the league to this day.
I've never heard of Dare Ogunbowale in a serious conversation outside of being a Houston Texans fan whenever he's about to get cut. Nobody cares that he didn't touch the ball at all. Like, there was no uproar. There was no why isn't Dare getting more touches. But now that it's like who's going to get cut and who's not going to get cut, everybody wants Dare to be on the team. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, it's mind-blowing. And I'm more interested. And the fact that Nick Caley, I said this on the previous podcast, the fact that Nick Caley comes from, previous stop was New England before he got to LA, where they did do a 3-back system. That's something that he's used to. So that, and this kind of plays into what I was going to get into later about, I think there's more of a connection to New England than there is LA, just with some of the stuff that CJ Stroud has been saying and some of the reports that have come out. So if he's used to doing a 3 running back system in New England and he's done it before with good results, why would you not want to have a 3 running back system with Mixon, Chubb, and Pierce? That's a top 3 running back room in the league. Especially in a system where all 3 players fit it.
Right.
So like what? So you're gonna keep Dare on the roster so he can pass block?
Is
Come
this
on,
what we're
man.
talking about right now?
Is this what we're talking about right now?
Yeah.
Is he
The
gonna make such
argument.
a is he gonna make such a difference?
Don't get
Is
me
he, is
wrong,
he
Dare is a good pass blocker, but like it's not to the level of like we need this guy on the roster.
right? Because
Because
I
guess
mean,
what?
Joe
British
Mixon is
Brooks
a good. Joe
Well,
Mixon is
British
a good.
Brooks was playing our fullback, so if we need somebody who's just for one, all of your what's the word I'm looking for? Formations are going to be messed up because if all Dare is going to do is either catch the football or pass block, and you see him run out on the field, you know exactly okay he's either pass blocking or
Catching. So you could
you
because
know it's going to be a pass.
right you so if you so you can't have that type of like that just I yeah I'm at a loss for words, to be honest.
Yeah, me too.
Like some of
I'm
these
not.
people on Twitter have been calling me crazy, and I don't really understand it, to be honest with you.
You might
Um,
need to apologize really quick to uh your buddies up in Norman.
okay, that's not. Here's the thing. So what what people on TikTok seem to just completely. First of all, you know what? Let me just make sure because we had somebody bring up Taylon Green as a
Don't get me wrong.
comparison.
Hold on. Don't get me wrong. Taylor Green is a dog.
I don't disagree, but we had somebody bring up Taylon Green as a response to why they think that
I
John
think Taylor
Mateer.
Green and John Mateer are two completely different people when it comes to being quarterbacks. Taylor Green is like a monster. He's like a literal athletic specimen, and John Mateer is just a regular white dude like me and Ethan. like,
Right. I, I
like
mean, let's see. So now, granted, he comes from Boise State, where in his 2 years as a starter there, he gets over 2,000 yards one time, never gets over 15 passing touchdowns. Now, granted, he goes for but like 586 to 436, 586 in 1 year and 436 on the ground. That's great. 10 rushing touchdowns, 9 rushing touchdowns. That's great. He comes to the SEC, and congratulations, you can run the ball because you're a freak athlete. That's awesome. But he still only threw 15 touchdowns. He had a passer rating of 138.2. That is not good. Like they were saying, oh, people come from the MAC all the time and do good in the SEC, and then they bring up this guy. It's like, okay, I'll listen to that argument, but don't give me Taylon Green.
I'll listen to the argument also because I think the Taylor Green argument makes a little bit of sense, but if you're comparing that to why the whole okay, let's get this straight. The whole argument was OU was not going to get 6 wins. That was Ethan's take, not mine.
Yeah. Yep.
Ethan's take was they weren't going to get 6 wins. The argument in the comments were, oh well, just because we bring in John Mateer from whatever conference, Taylor Green did really good, and he came from the MAC or wherever, so we're going to do good because obviously it's proven success. Hey, you don't want Arkansas to be your comp. They didn't play good last year. Like that's a bad argument.
Right. If sure, please be Arkansas. Please be
Yeah.
Arkansas.
If okay, so Taylor Green is your that's who you're comparing John Mateer to. For one, crazy. Secondly, then my point still stands because my whole point was it depends on how good John Mateer is, and if he plays like anything like Taylor Green, they're not going to be a good team. Outside of the running, I mean, we know John Mateer is not going to rush for 500 yards or whatever.
I mean,
Last
last year.
maybe he might.
Hold on. I'm gonna see. Let me see something. Let me see some.
And then they want to talk about. It's so bonkers to me because the comments didn't make any sense because they wanted to talk about. One guy was talking about how Nussmeier's frantic. He's very frantic, and he wants to talk about how Lenora Sellers can't read a defense and all these things. And I'm just sitting there thinking, like, there's no way you think John Mateer is better than Nussmeier or Lenora Sellers.
Sellers. No, or He's not better than Nussmeier. He's not better than Sellers. He's not better than Lagway. Like, if you want to have the Arch Manning conversation when it comes to John Mateer, fine, because Arch Manning didn't play against anybody. We don't really know what he is, and we kind of have an idea what John Mateer is. And if you want to say you'd rather have a veteran John Mateer who you know what you're going to get than a newer, that's fine. But at least the top 3 quarterbacks in the league, he's not better than them.
And it's not close.
Not even close. Now,
and I would argue he's only the de facto 4th or 5th best quarterback in the SEC because there's so many unprovens this year.
Yes.
That easily by week 4, he's like bottom tier out down there with what's his name from Kentucky or the Mississippi State guy, like in that lower echelon. Like Diego Pavia, I'd argue, is probably better than John Mateer.
Damn, I didn't. Okay, so I don't have the notes right in front of me, but Oklahoma lost 80% of their offense and 7 of their offensive linemen, and they lose the top transfer portal receiver they bring in, and they're bringing in a running back who was already hurt last year. It wasn't even like he was hurt and missed the year. He missed 2 games and still finished with terrible stats. So, like, are we really? And you're coming into an SEC with that schedule? With you, and now all of a sudden, it'd be one thing if Oklahoma had Texas' schedule, who admittedly has a much easier schedule. Maybe I'll be having this conversation with OU fans. But with that schedule they have to play, and the amount that they lost versus what they're bringing in, at minimum they're even. At minimum, I mean at most they're even. In my opinion, because
the more I talk to or discuss with OU fans and hear the delusion that they have around their team, they sound so like it's so crazy how much they remind me of Alabama fans. But the difference is
without the championships.
Yeah, or like the roster to back it up. It's like okay, John Mateer is I guess I will give you the benefit of the doubt on everything that you're saying. John Mateer is a good quarterback. Y'all got a good defense. Y'all got offensive weapons. All that good stuff. You're still not an upper echelon SEC team. You're just not a top tier SEC team with the not just in general, just with the schedule you have. I think if y'all played, like you said, a Texas schedule, I could see y'all going for double-digit wins probably with your only losses coming to Georgia, Florida, whoever.
Right.
But you got, and I made I was talking to the guy in the comments, and I was talking to him about how he was like, we could beat OU. I mean, Ole Miss. We can beat LSU. We can beat Tennessee. We might lose to Bama. But we beat Bama last year, and then he's pretty much saying they're going to beat the whole. And then he said, "Oh, we'll beat Mizzou. Oh, you probably will beat Mizzou." Yeah. But outside of that, like, okay, first and foremost, there was another guy who brought up the Alabama game last year, and he said that we beat them by 3. That they beat us by 3 scores, and it wasn't close. Oh yes. Also, one of the worst calls of all time last year, literally in all of the entire season last year, took away any momentum we had with like 14 minutes left in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
First and foremost. Secondly, you don't have that team anymore when you're going against Alabama. So Alabama, you're probably going to lose to. LSU, you're probably going to lose to because Nussmeier's a dog. Like I'm not high on them. I do think they're a little overrated, but I still think they're better than Oklahoma. Then you got Tennessee. Josh Heupel's still an offensive mastermind. They still have a good defense. They didn't lose a ton of people to the transfer portal. They recruited decently, fairly well outside of Nico. And Josh Heupel's an offensive-minded guy. Like, he's going to have some – like, he's not going into the season with no answer for Nico. And Nico didn't even play that well.
Right. And defensively, they lose Danny Stutzman, Billy Bowman, Marcus Stripling. Let's see, what's another one that I saw? Makari Vickers, Dan McCullough, Key Lawrence. There's the list goes on. The list goes on. Like, they lost a lot of people. Like, it wasn't just like they lost the bottom half of their roster. just a receiver alone, Andrew Anthony, Jalil Farouk, Jaquez Petway. Then at running back, you lose Tawi Walker. You lose where's the other one? At tight end, you lose Jace Llewellyn. Um, like this is a totally different Oklahoma team coming into next year on both sides of the ball, and y'all are already bad. And you're going into playing a tough schedule with you're gonna have a completely retooled offensive line, a
They got a
completely
new
rebuilt.
offensive coordinator though.
Yeah, they got a new offensive coordinator. Yeah, they're gonna. Yeah. You're right. That makes them so much better. Like, the delusion coming out of Norman is crazy. Like this is what we heard last year. Oh look, Danny Stutzman, David Hicks. Now Hicks comes back. That's cool.
Jackson Arnold. I remember the hype. Don't y'all want to say he sucks in the comments, but I remember last year y'all were talking. Oh, Jackson Arnold might be one of the. He might be a Heisman contender. That was crazy, but I did see it. I saw it a couple times.
Yeah, it was there. It was there.
So I think what it is people just like to root for their team, and that's okay. But let's not be crazy.
Right? Can we just come down to earth a little bit and recognize how difficult? Because like I said,
mind you, this is only your second season in the SEC, so maybe a lot of those guys don't really understand.
And statistically, teams in their second season in the NFL, in the SEC, regress by an average of like 1.5 or 2 wins.
Yeah, this isn't the same
historically.
Yeah, this isn't the conference you just came from. This is a completely different ballgame.
Right, and I say that as a Texas fan who has now we have an easy schedule, so we probably don't regress that much unless barring something crazy, But for OU to go for them to have the mindset they're going to go from 6-6 to a 10-win season with that schedule, the meat of the take is the fact that schedule in and of itself is hard for any team.
Of the top 10 hardest schedules in the country.
Right. It'd be hard for Texas. It'd be hard for. Maybe Bama's is hard too. I don't know the ins and outs of that schedule to be honest, but it'd be hard for Bama to play that schedule. Any team, that would be a hard schedule for anybody. Now your team is bad and you're still playing a hard schedule. And how can you sit here and talk to me straight in the face and tell me you're going to win 10 games?
The difference is that I feel like a lot of, or maybe just from the people I talked to, didn't keep up with SEC football whenever y'all were in the Big 12 or whatever. And that's fine. And yes, the SEC's not been what they used to be in lack of better words, but you can't, like, a lot of the argument was we got better and everybody else didn't. That's not, first off, that's never true.
Yeah,
like the SEC is one of the, and same with the Big Ten, same with all the other major conferences, but mainly the SEC and Big Ten. Just when you think a team is about to be on their way out, they reload. That's just what LSU do it. They do it all the time. Ole Miss, they lost all their guys. Boom, here we go. Kelly, what's that guy's name? Kelly, the quarterback for Ole Miss. Oh, he sucks. Boom, here comes Jackson Dart. Like Stetson Bennett, and then, well, I'm not going to give him that, but Bama's a good example. It was what's his name? Tua, Jalen Hurts, then Bryce Young, then Jalen Milroe, and now a question mark at quarterback. Every team does it in the SEC. All the upper teams, Ole Miss, LSU, Tennessee, Alabama, all those, Georgia, all those guys always are so good at reloading that you can never just, like, the take of they just don't have any answers anymore. It's just not true.
Right. We saw that last year with a Georgia team who most people would tell you was probably one of the worst Georgia teams in recent memory, and they still
won the SEC.
So, like,
with a tough schedule too.
With a tough schedule, yeah. So, like, for people to sit here and be like, for OU fans to be like, we got better and everybody else got worse, that's a lazy take. That's just tell
me you don't know anything about any other team.
Right. Just tell me that you only follow your team and we can move on.
Yeah. Because the guy was like, well, Ole Miss doesn't have a quarterback. Sure, maybe, but if he can do what he did against that one drive against Georgia, if he can do that against, just replicate that all year, be consistent with that, Ole Miss might be one of the best teams in the nation.
Yeah.
Like that they're only that much away. Like every SEC team, LSU, Tennessee, Alabama, Ole Miss, all those teams that you have to play are that like just one consistent quarterback away from being probably one of the better teams in the nation.
Right. And much like Tennessee, Ole Miss has a quarterback, has a quarterback friendly system. So we can't honestly say that there's no chance that an Ole Miss is good next year. Because they've also done good in the transfer portal and recruiting, much like all the teams in this league.
And you still got the crazy
in the
thing
conference.
is the SEC, I would argue, is probably going to be better next year than it was last year. Because now you got teams like Marcel Reed going into a second year with A&M.
Mm-hmm.
DJ Lagway's coming back healthy. Lenore Sellers.
Yep.
They were picking up some steam. Alabama I would bet money on it that they're going to be way better than they were last year. Texas is still good. Georgia, depending on how Stockton does, probably going to be really good. Like I don't see outside of, and Vanderbilt's always going to be gritty. So outside of Kentucky and Mississippi State and Mizzou,
Yeah, right. Those three teams. If
like everybody else has a pretty decent chance.
Yeah, and that, what isn't there like 16 teams in the SEC? So that's 13 other teams that are fighting that are going to eat themselves alive.
Yeah.
I can't say it enough. The reason why I don't believe OU gets, I'll give them 6. Fine. The reason I don't think they get above 6 is because of that schedule. If that schedule was easier, we'd have a different discussion. But it is what it is. So it is what it is.
And I feel like they think they're just so blinded. They were so blinded by the fact that we said maybe six wins was the ceiling, that they weren't even thinking about they have to play a lot of those games back to back to back to back to back.
The back half of that schedule, we talked about it on the last show, is a gauntlet.
And you think all of those games are going to be a dogfight, mind you. Secondly,
because you know what's going to happen.
You're gonna get through that entire back half injury free. Every guy's going to be 100% every week.
Right. Because you know what's going to happen.
You don't get an Appalachian State in the middle of that to rest your starters. You don't get that luxury, bro. You're going in there and you're getting into a dogfight every week, and then you're going to be injured going into a dogfight.
Right. And because you know what's going to happen. They're going to win their first 4 games, and everybody's going to be like, oh, we told you. We told you. Maybe they win their first 5 games. We told you. But starting with Texas in week 6, I don't know if there's really any wins on the back half of their schedule outside of Missouri. So, like, that Missouri gets them to 6.
And that's if they beat. And, okay, I'm not going to talk too good about little bro here, but we're talking about you got to get through not only a Michigan team that has a good defense, just like you.
And they're mad because of their season last year.
And they just got the number 1 quarterback in the entire nation as their quarterback. Recruit, my bad, not in the nation, just recruit. They got him at the starting quarterback. They loaded up on offense. Their defense is still good, much like you guys. So y'all got to get past that hurdle. Then you got to go to Auburn, or Auburn's got to go to you, or whatever that is. Then you got to play against what most would consider, and I would consider to a top 5 wide receiver room in college football, or at least in the SEC. Yeah. They got your boy Jackson Arnold. He might be on some revenge type of timing, and I'm not saying they're gonna be good because I don't ever think Auburn's gonna be good, but I think they can give OU problems.
Sure.
So you still got 2 games before Texas that you got to get over, and if you lose both of those, you're going into Texas 3-2, with not a great chance to beat Texas.
Yeah, I mean, okay. So are you are we good at the OU situation?
Yeah, I'm good. I've been good.
I'm good on that. I think they could call us crazy and clueless all they want to. Yeah, now you can't say guy in the orange hat. You can say orange shirt and hat now, bitches. So, suck my. Anyways,
why did you say it like a? Why did you say it like?
Because I was trying to keep it PG. Anyways, so let's get back to what this show was intended to be about, real quick, because I wanted to get into what CJ Stroud said at the podium the other. I don't know if it was yesterday. I don't have a clip of it. I couldn't find it. but I know he said it. I heard it. But he said so when they brought in Kaylee, everybody kind of assumed that it was going to be a LA infused Matt Stafford type offense, right? That's kind of what, and that's fine. I'm not. There's not a problem with that. But then he gets up there and he says they've been watching a lot of Brady. They've been watching a lot of New England when Josh McDaniels was there, and when Nick Haley was there, and kind of what that looked like. And I thought that was interesting because Tom Brady was never the guy with the strongest arm or the most gifted arm. But he could read defenses. He was absolutely he was surgical. So
Some might even call a guy like Tom Brady potentially. Now this might be crazy, but he might be the greatest quarterback of all time. Some might say.
some might say some
Kind of a
I
hot
don't
take
know.
there, but
Kind
maybe.
of a hot take. Hello. So what I think that what I think that means is I have 2 points. What I think that means is the there's not going to be a whole lot of because during that era they were doing a lot of middle of the field throws, a lot of shorter, quicker passes. They weren't really pushing the ball down the field because Brady didn't really have the biggest arm. And I think that could bode well for our offensive line because we're not asking them to pass block for 4, 5, 6 seconds. It's going to be a lot more 1-2 bang, 1-2 bang, 1-2-3 bang.
Right.
So
Well, we all know that the offensive system is going to look completely different than what
right,
it because you got to realize Nick Haley can't just piggyback off of McVay. He
right.
can't just run the same stuff. He's been around the league for a good amount of time. You know what I mean? So he's going to have to pull stuff from everywhere that he's been, everything that he's learned, because now it's his. Like he, I don't know how true this is, but in my opinion, if I was a coordinator or a position coach or something like that with hopes to be a head coach or a coordinator, offensive coordinator or something, a play caller, I wouldn't give every team that I have everything that I have. You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't
That's
give
another
them
thing.
all my sauce
Right. That's
because I need
another
to save
thing.
some of that for whenever I get to where I need to be.
Right. And Nick Haley has come out and said on the podium that there's going to be some weeks where like we do a lot of one thing, like he's not going to put a square into a round hole, basically. So like,
That's refreshing.
yeah, right. So like, basically like if it ain't working, I ain't gonna keep doing it, you know. And he's also said he's going to build plays around the players he has. It's no secret the offensive line isn't great, right? That's not a secret. So he's going to have to design plays around the knowledge that the offensive line may not be great. And I think that could bode well for CJ Stroud and co. because now we can debate on if Nick Chubb is still a top echelon ish running back in the league when it comes to his injuries. We can have that debate. But you have a running back in Joe Mixon if he's healthy, a running back in Nick Chubb if he's healthy, that allow you to have a really solid run game that you haven't had in 3 years. Plus, you still have Nico Collins. You drafted Jaden Higgins, who I know you and I may not be super high on, but I've seen a lot of cool clips from him. I've seen a lot of interesting, plays with him, in minicamp and whatnot. You have Higgins. You bring in a Christian Kirk who eats in the slot, So like, it opens up a lot of different things, and I think having the short intermediate, if they can eat in the short and intermediate area, then it'll open up even more things. And if they can have a consistent run game, I think I think they're gonna have a lot of games where Chubb goes for 89, 90, 100 yards. Then you're going to have the next week Mixon goes for 89, 90, or 100 yards. It's really going to be like a game-to-game thing. I don't think there is a RB1 on this roster. I think it's 1A, 1B, whoever has the hot hand. And
Yeah.
it helps when both running backs, if they have a hot hand, can be explosive.
Yeah, for sure. And I also think it's common knowledge, or at least semi common knowledge that they're gonna try to nurse Mixon's injuries a little bit. They're not gonna try to give him 300 carries. So
Yeah.
the idea that we're having, or as fans are going into the season, that it's going to look pretty similar to last year, except now instead of putting Damian Pierce in, we get to put Nick Chubb in. It's not going to be like that. It's going to be Mixon gets it for, first and second down, then we convert on third, and then it'll be, Nick Chubb in for a couple of downs, and then back to Mixon, and then back to Chubb. So they each get, 3, 4, 5 plays in between having to run the ball. It's not going to be
Right.
Mixon on this, Mixon this whole drive, and then to start the next drive, it'll be, Chubb for 3 or 4 touches, and then Mixon back in again.
No, yeah, no. I think it's very much. I think they're going to get as close to. I think Mixon probably gets 60 or I don't know, because if we do the 3-back system, then you're talking about, I think Mixon may get 45, maybe, or 40% of the touches, and then Chubb gets like 35% of the touches, and then DP or whoever your third back is gets what is that, 25% of the touches. That seems like a pretty good breakdown to me.
Yeah, and we're not even thinking about the fact, a lot of Texans fans, that like not only do we have Nick Chubb and Joe Mixon, but we have Nick Chubb and Joe Mixon. So this isn't Joe Mixon. Like, Joe Mixon's RB1 spot isn't necessarily safe.
Right.
When it comes to, like, if Nick Chubb can do what he was doing before he got injured, recapture some of that, I could see a world where, hey, this week we're rolling out with Nick Chubb.
Yeah.
We'll have Mixon taking the RB2 snaps.
Right, like I said, I think it helps to go with the hot hand system when both your hands can get hot.
Right.
Right.
And then being able, why I'm so high on Damian Pierce is because if one of those guys go down, which we've seen happen,
would you rather have Damian Pierce or Dare Gumbawale taking snaps?
Right. And then if Damian Pierce, say 2 of those guys are out, well, now you still have Nick Chubb, Joe Mixon, Damian Pierce, plus one other guy. So you can, like, it seems like we're building depth for injury. You know what I mean?
Which is, I'm cool with that. That's fine. I mean, I would rather do more than, how do I say it? I would rather deal with it now, in the sense that I would rather build the depth up now, because we know that in this league, running backs go down. So I would rather have guys on the roster than need guys on the roster later.
Sure.
Because there were games last year where Dare started. So, like,
you don't want that again.
We can't have. That's not a recipe for success.
Yeah.
It's just not.
And a lot of people are super, super high on Higgins and Noel and Kirk and Nico. Fantastic. Me too. I'm still worried about the depth behind those guys, because if anything, if the trend remains, Nico's going to miss a few games. Christian Kirk will probably miss a few games, and I'm not super ecstatic about Higgins and Noel.
You bring in Braxton Berrios and you bring in Justin Watson.
Those are not needle movers for me.
Sure, but that is the depth, though. I think that's the depth.
Well, Hutch, Metch, and then Berrios and all of them.
Yeah. So I mean, the gap between Nico, Kirk, and I don't know if I want to throw Higgins in there just yet. But I mean, who's if in a 3-receiver set, who are your receivers out there?
Probably Nico for sure.
Yep.
Depends on the formation, but if best chance for somebody to come down with a football, I would put Nico, Higgins, Kirk.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that's what we're gonna have to roll out with next year. And then Berrios backs up Kirk, Watson backs up.
Noel backs up Kirk.
Noel backs up Kirk.
Noel backs up Kirk. Metch backs up Noel, or it'll probably go.
I don't know. I don't know if Metch is on the roster.
Whoa.
I don't know if he's dropped a lot of balls per some reporting of the guys that have been people that have went out there and watched.
Oh, just these past 2 days?
Yeah, there was a video of him straight up dropping it. Straight up came out of a break and just right through his hands. And drops have been a problem for him since he's been here.
Yeah, I don't think separation's ever really been. I
No,
still think he can be like. I'm a Mitch guy, and I'm on the train of Mitch is about to be out the door. I can see the writing on the wall, but I will give him his flowers at least a little bit. Mitch is still probably this might be a hot take. I think Mitch is probably the best route runner we have on the team.
sure, I could see that. I could see that. I could see that.
Yeah, he's
I
not the
don't.
fastest or anything, but pure route running ability, like he's so twitchy coming in and out of cuts. Like he is a good route runner. Now, I can see why he doesn't get the ball thrown to him because you don't know if the guy's going to drop it, cost you a pick. Like, even if he's in the NFL, one step on a guy is wide open.
Yeah,
But if that ball's going to slip through your hands or you're not going to be able to make the play,
tip
and
drill now it turns into a tip drill.
yeah, and now you're going to get the ball picked off and put us in a position to lose. I can see why you'd get overlooked.
Yeah. So apparently, I think we've kind of things. I think things have started to fall into place when it comes to the offensive line. I think right now you got Cam Robinson at right tackle, Laken Tomlinson at right guard, Jake Andrews at center, Titus Howard at left guard, and then Blake Fisher at left tackle. That's still not good enough for me. I will say this: it would be good. It's the Blake Fisher of it all for me.
I want to believe. First off, I don't think Blake Fisher is the issue here. I don't think he's the best player that we have on our offensive line by far. I don't think any of them are really the best offensive linemen we have. I think Titus Howard's probably our best offensive lineman.
I mean, Cam
Which
Robinson's probably up there.
I don't know, man. That's the guy from Minnesota, yeah.
No, no. Cam Robinson came from the Jacksonville. He was I think he came from Jacksonville.
Oh yeah, I know Laken
The guy,
Tomlinson is like that's a bad name to watch out for. A lot of people have a lot of Laken Tomlinson hype. I'm not buying it at all.
the hype comes from the fact that he stays healthy and he's played like 10,000 career snaps or something like that.
10,000 bad career snaps. No, okay, Laken Tomlinson was good, but I do know whenever we picked him up, a lot of Seahawks fans were like, "Why? Like,
Yeah,
what was the
good
point of
riddance
that?"
almost.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
did you see the report come out from the Eagles that about Kenyon Green? He got beat 11 straight times by what was the dude who got from Georgia last year? Starts with a J.
Jalen
Carter.
Jalen Carter.
I think yeah. He got beat 11 straight times. And it's like we tried to tell y'all. Why the fact that y'all gave us what I think wasn't it CJ Gardner Johnson for Kenyon Green?
Heads up. And I think we gave him like a fifth or a sixth.
Or something like that. Like that's real dumb. Real dumb. Let's bust another crash out, please.
I will say, in all seriousness, I do hope Kenyon Green performs well in Philadelphia.
I hope he gets it together.
Not in the sense that I want him to be good. I just want our offensive line coach to get fired because I think once we can see, not fired. I just want us to get a good offensive line coach that's a bona fide, like the guy that they have in Philadelphia.
Just Stoutland, which we should have. Yeah.
Yes, that's what I want because I'm still not high on the fact that we just kept the same guys as far as our offense. Like you don't have an offensive line that's that bad, and then say, "Yeah, I think we're gonna run that shit back, baby. I think we're gonna run that shit back."
Like, and we're not as fans, we're not even really asking for much. Can we just be like 22 or 20?
Yeah,
top ranked offensive line. Because if we're that,
I think realistically what the goal is, in my opinion, what I think would be the smart move is I would be so surprised if we didn't have a trade specific to offensive line come before the trade deadline of this year. Like, I really feel like this is not the same offensive line that we're going to make a push with.
I think it depends on. I think it really just depends on how things are going. Now that's obviously a super broad take, but like there is differences from this year and last year because like Drew Scruggs isn't going to see the field, and he was one of our starters last year. So like Jake Andrews, granted his center tape is from college, so how can you really judge that super hard or appreciate that a lot when he's hasn't played it in the league? Titus Howard has only played left guard like 3 snaps in his entire career. Blake Fisher is coming off a year where he damn near got C.J. Stroud decapitated multiple times. So like there is definitely reason to be worried, but at the same time, I think if Cam Robinson can hold it down on the right side, and Tim, is it Tim Brown? Not Tim Brown. I just had his name in my head before I brought this up. The left we brought in a left tackle. You know what? Before
you start saying names.
Yeah, before I start saying names. Trent Brown.
Okay. Yeah.
Now Trent Brown might not play because he's coming off that patellar injury. Patellar injury.
Yeah.
Which is like I've mentioned previously, is kind of that's a death mark for an offensive lineman to get that injury. But for all intents and purposes, he's bringing a different culture to the room, which is what we wanted. Now, that's like not a great feeling either. Okay, a new culture. We're gonna be. I don't know. That word culture is
we're gonna be a cultured offensive line. That's our goal here. Hey, yeah, the culture's good in there. The culture's good in the offensive line.
But can we block a defensive end, please?
Yeah, I think here's my issue. Here's my big ick with the offensive line is everybody's so optimistic, and I've said this a million times. Our fan base is so optimistic just because they're like, we've been down here. It can't be that bad. Like with the guys we have, it physically cannot be down here. So we're just happy. We're just happy to hey, at least we're not here anymore. 2 and 10's gone. But I think the real issue is with the offensive line specifically, it's like you bring in all these guys, but there's film on these guys. Years of, like a lot of these guys are veterans, like years of film. These guys aren't good anywhere that they've been, really, outside of what's his name, who won Pro Bowl or was a Pro Bowler in 22. But like the past couple of seasons, none of these guys have been like, there's a reason they were all expendable.
Yeah, there's a reason. Yeah, right. If they were worth it, they would have been on a team. So and
it feels like Houston always has one of the big missing pieces. Like the running back room is either everything's good but the running back room, or everything is good but the quarterback situation, or we never have receivers but everything else is good. Like we're always missing just one more piece.
Right. So I mean, we'll see because we've had discussions about whether about Popovich and if he's gonna because I just don't buy into the fact that he was a glorified cone setter last year. He had to have some like. There's got to be a reason why the offensive line didn't perform well, and you can't blame the blaming it on one dude thing. Is this kind of like is it easy out? And I don't necessarily. I think I agree with that.
So, I don't agree with that at all. I'm not buying that even a little bit. I think there's ball boys in the NFL. There's all kinds of interns that you can have to be cone setters. So what is his job? What was his job last year? Also, if he's so highly touted and he has a ton of respect in the NFL, why didn't he get the starting? I mean, why didn't he get that position last year in the middle of the season when you could have fired that guy that was screwing our entire O-line up?
Right. Rather than keeping him along and be like, oh, he'll figure it out.
Yeah.
The offensive line was the reason we didn't have the season we wanted to have.
It got C.J. Stroud injured.
C.J.
Stroud was playing through injury, and then C.J. Stroud numbers started to dip, and then everybody started questioning C.J. Stroud. Oh, he's not as accurate anymore. He was injured. His fucking arm was about to fall off because he couldn't. He had to keep doing this. I know he's swole because he had to do push-ups 20 times a game.
He had to get himself off the ground 25 times a game doing push-ups.
It's like the offense, like, I'm still not sold on it. No, I won't be sold on it until
I see it. Yeah.
until week 5 probably.
And
They
by
could
the
play good. They could play lights out the first 4 games of the season. I'm still not sold on it.
I think that's just us as fans. We've seen both ends of the spectrum, and it feels like our offensive line is the only part of our team that's stuck in the 2-10 mindset. You know what I mean? And you could argue that our offensive line was probably better then. So like keeping the same guys around, from coaches down to players, and expecting things to change, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, is literally the definition of insanity. So
I mean, I will say they did make at least a somewhat of an effort to, like, they did wipe house with our entire O-line last season. So we can give them that. Now, they didn't upgrade. Like, here's my thing. I'm so pissed off that we didn't upgrade anything. Like, there's not one position I can look at on the offensive line and say we got better at that position. There's not one. Maybe the Kenyon Green. What did he even play? Right guard? Something like that.
Which you can't get worse than that.
Because that's Lakin Tomlinson's position. Apparently, he's just as bad. So, like, I still can't say we got better there. So,
right.
What's the game plan here, baby? Because if we didn't get better and we were already the worst, what does that make us this year? Still the worst, but with just different guys, or what?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think we've beaten the Astros win 10-2. Hello, Isaac Paredes having a good game there.
Astros leading. They're leading the whole division right now. I think we're up
4 games now.
Yeah.
3 or 4 games now.
Astros
They're inevitable. The Astros are inevitable.
They are inevitable. We are inevitable. The city of Houston is inevitable.
Yeah. Baseball runs through Houston. Hello.
Football runs through Houston. Basketball.
If you mean football runs through Houston as in everybody else runs through our offensive line,
through our offensive line is exactly what I meant.
Then yeah, I agree. All right. Well, were there any other things you kind of wanted to get into? Because I feel like we've kind of touched on all the top. We got CJ, we got the offensive line, we got the clap back at OU fans. So I think we kind of touched on everything we needed to get into today. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah. All right. Well, we will be back on Friday. So be sure to tune in to that and give us a like, give us a follow, talk some shit in the comments. We'll clap back. We're with the business. So, come hang out with us anytime you want.
I ain't with that beefing on the net. Tell me what's next. I can't listen to the hype. Wanna know that you've been mixed with lies. Love you like your favorite cocktail.